All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Reading in the district's promise statement. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure. Are there any additional items for the agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, go ahead.
It's Kevin Bourne. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Let's fight over it.
Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Recognition of visitors and open forum. Don't think we have anybody signed up to speak. So we'll go right into our reports and presentations, and we have, Nikki will be speaking at our study session.
Yeah, she has the conference cross-country meet today, and they weren't gonna start the awards till 5:40, and she wanted to be able to stick around for the awards. So, I'm just gonna reschedule her, introduction to the school board to November 6th, which is a study session.
Okay, perfect. So we'll move on to 6B, introduction of David Rysdam, JWP High School Principal. Welcome.
Green light, right?
Yep.
It's not turning on.
Just click it once.
There.
Yep.
Let's go.
It's flash, now it's green.
Hello. Well, anyway, I'm David Rysdam. I'm interim high school principal. And guest here for any question you guys might have for me, so. Now it's green.
Now it's green.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the year's going and just, for those of us that don't know you real well, a little bit about your background and.
So for me, this is kind of my second career. I owned a remodeling company in the Twin Cities for 13 years, and then 2008 hit, and it was kind of a, do I want to do this forever? Do I want to go into something else? And so my wife and I decided to go back to school. Both my parents were teachers. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do for my retirement job, was just, get in the classroom and teach, and found out that I absolutely loved it. Still do. I miss it a lot. I started out, graduated from Bemidji State, went to Laverne for 4 years. During that time, I got a master's in political science. My wife and I own apartment buildings in this area, so we moved this way. And we found a place in Cleveland, right on West Jefferson Lake. My first year in the area was at USC, but that was an hour and 20 minutes away. So as soon as this job came up, I jumped at it, because it's 20 minutes away. It's a perfect commute, back and forth. High school social studies, college government for 2 years here, and then last year, at my wife's urging, I got my specialist degree in educational leadership. I also have my superintendent's and principal's licensure. So a week before school, this came up, and I was ready. It was time. He asked, and I said 100%, I'm in. Let's give it a go. And so you ask me how the year's going, and I don't have a litmus test. I don't have a measuring gauge. It's all really new to me. The real question is, it handleable? Yeah, it's handleable. I mean, some days are tough, some days are great, but it's all part of the thing, and it's getting easier each and every single day. I am comfortable asking questions now. I'm comfortable, and I've always been comfortable with criticism, both constructive and negative. There's usually an ounce of truth to both sides of it. You just got to listen for what it is and take it for what it's worth. So could I do without some things? Yeah, but those things are unavoidable. That's the small things that bug me. The big things, usually they've been rolling for a time now, and you just got to pick up the pieces and do the best you can with them. The small things, the things that are correctable, those are the things that I'm working on every single day. Checking in with teachers, checking in with students. And then when the big things come, you devote the time you need to do that. So ask me again in 2 months and I'll let you know where I'm at that point.
2 months.
So,
Yeah.
So do you feel you're getting all the support, from whether it's the staff or the administration and stuff that you
Yeah, I
need
would
to
even say
help you
from the
move forward?
community too. Inevitably, you have parents and they have concerns, and again, a lot of times if you listen long enough, you'll get to the root cause. They're not gonna come out and tell you what it is right away most of the time. A lot of times you have to, especially the ones that are part of certain situations, they need time to vent and they need time to get around to what exactly the real thing is. And once you get to that, I've had nothing but good experiences, even with, what some people would deem, maybe more difficult situations. And so for me, it's been good. I haven't really met anybody that hasn't had cause, I suppose, to feel the way that they feel. But then at the end of it, wasn't willing to find a solution, So to me, it's been good both within and out. And again, it's a different kind of, I shouldn't say stress, but anticipation. You know what I mean? You don't know what's waiting around the corner. And so you just gotta be ready for it. As long as you're willing to work with people and listen, it's, from within the building, it's been great. Teachers have been great. Administration's been great, even though half of us are learning together. But it's been good. It's been good.
What are some of the changes you'd like to make?
Well, I think we're full scale into some of those right now. I think by getting duties back, it's gonna help me do a lot and iron out a lot and streamline things a lot. That's a huge one, so thank you for that. Well, I suppose the ink hasn't even been inked yet, but when it does, that's gonna be a big boost. We've talked about weighted grades. I would like to see that, whatever form it comes in. Once we stop celebrating achievement and hard work and dedication to education, I guess I have a bit of an issue with that, and I understand the whole equity bit, and I'm all on board with that. I completely am. And I think we can do that. I think we can accomplish all of those things. I'd like to see a few tweaks to attendance policy so it's a little bit clearer. I also want to keep kids in the school. I want to start seeing a policy for, and I have literature in front of you about, we have teachers here that are qualified to teach college level courses. Let's make them teach college level courses. Let's stop farming it out to these other institutions. We have students here taking online courses for no other reason than it's easier. Well, this is education and we're supposed to work for it. We have teachers here that teach that content. We need to push them towards that. We have students that in their senior year aren't enjoying all of the senior year stuff that we could be doing as a result of some of these things. So I'd really like to get that culture back by having them in the building, by having them celebrate these things with one another. Because I was, sophomore, junior, senior teacher, and I had these great kids with junior year, and then all of a sudden senior year they're absent. And they're still classes, but they're just not around. For me as a teacher, that was, it was kind of a sad deal. So, those are some things that I'd like to see, as we progress and move forward. But as for the rest, just learning, every day, learning something new, figuring something new out. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows what you mean by duties. I know you and I had talked at conferences,
Yeah.
but you might want to explain a little bit so they know.
So
what-
duties are, right now, the teachers have an 80-minute block as prep time. Every other school I've been to, there's a duty. So I get 1 hour prep, 50 minutes of prep, and then that other 50 minutes would be study hall, coming down and working in the lunchroom, ISS, although we can't really do that anymore, but something similar to it. It could even be space for our online students or our PSEO students that are in the school, giving all these students comfortable spaces to work, because 30 kids in a classroom of various, what they're there for, study hall, online, PSEO, isn't conducive sometimes to actually getting work done. And so having these duties, having teachers being able to take on some of these roles will allow these students, I guess, more breadth to accomplish what they want to accomplish and do what they want to do. So for me, it's gonna be a big asset to have, the teachers taking on some of this stuff.
I have a question. As an administrator, where do you believe you would be able to spend your time and be the most efficient, effective administrator? And on the other side, where do you actually see yourself spending a lot of time? Like, you'd like to be doing this, but maybe your more work is going with discipline, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I'm a big ounce of prevention guy.
Mhm.
I think if you take care of the little things, the big things don't happen. And if it's repeated and if it's supported, then you'll end up getting some version of the result that you want.
Mhm.
And so for me, yeah, a lot of it is right now on discipline, and I think kids are just getting to know me in this role.
Mhm.
I'm certainly get to know them and also what, their needs are and what it is going to be, the best outcome for them. So yeah, a lot of it is right now, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is right now. I think if we support the students and we support the teachers, we'll have positive outcomes. So right now, I think that that's where I'm needed the most. And so that's where I'm gonna stay. But that's where I spend most of my time. Learning would be the other thing, you know what I mean? It would be learning different systems, learning what other areas are doing, getting more involved in conferences so that I can grow my craft, I guess you could say. Those would absolutely be things that I would like to be spending a little bit more time in, because what else can I bring, not just damage control, but what else can I bring to the table that can help enhance what we do here? So that would be what I'm trying to do between the raindrops, but right now I'm needed as, that support guy. So.
Yeah, and so like with a follow-up with that, do you feel like you have a pretty good grasp on what's happening in classrooms, or not as much as because you're dealing more with the discipline
No,
part?
it's a good and it's a very fair question.
Yeah.
I think that because I'm not a long-distance principal, I go to the classrooms and I talk with the kids there.
Mhm.
I poke my head in. I think that's more valuable. And also it's less of a time waste. If it's a 5-minute question, they can waste 15 minutes in the hallways, grabbing a drink, going to the bathroom, whatever. I get my steps in that way too, so it's good for the health. But do I have as good a grasp as I want on what's going in the classrooms? No, but I have a relatively good idea where I'm going to be needed in that capacity moving forward, for sure.
So academically, a lot of time is currently spent on talking about how, reading, math, science are at
Yep.
all-time lows across the nation. And, I guess I'm not as interested in hearing how the nation is doing, but more about how we're doing. I'm really not interested in comparing myself to Minneapolis, St. Paul. So really wondering, because we've actually, a number of us are on the curriculum committee, talking to and working with Ms. Casey, wondering what your vision is to be able to really start to impact academics and start to stem kind of the downfall that we've seen over the last number of years.
Right, and a lot of the things they put in place coming into this year, I think they're going to help. I like our Math Academy. I like how they're impacting it both in the middle school, high school level. We had a similar reading program that had to fall by the wayside for a particular reason. And I think that's a really, really good start. I think Casey knows her stuff backwards and forwards, so supporting her in any way that I possibly can. But I also think, and this might just be me, I think getting certain classes away from block and too skinny is gonna be huge, simply because we're getting the content in front of them each and every single day. We're able to revisit it each and every single day. It doesn't give them that 1 to 4 day lag, dependent upon where it lands on the weekend, that they can completely forget it, and therefore we can't move on. And so, and that's just That's my personal opinion on it. I just, for some classes, I think block is outstanding. I absolutely do, and I would never want to take it away. But when we're talking about math and English, where these things need to be practiced, they need to be practiced. And I think putting a focus on the practice rather than the result might be something to think about too. Practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice does. And if we're not going to practice it perfectly, if we don't give the kids that skill set through practice and constant reminder, we're kind of setting them up to fail, in my opinion. And so therefore, I like the changes that we've made so far, and that's where the whole learning piece would come into play. What can I go to next? What can I take a conference or a class on next to bring this new stuff? What are some of the places that aren't completely falling apart? What are they doing? What do they have put in place that's working? And can we make that work here? Those are the things would be the next step. I hope I ramble. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything and stepping in when we needed you for this, and you're doing an excellent job, so thank you for that. Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to say I appreciate Mr. Rysdam comes to me with questions, pertinent questions in the moment, but he also respects my time and I respect his. So we meet typically in the morning at the end of the day just to catch up with each other, help out unless there's something throughout the day. So you've been a great addition to our admin team.
Yeah, I would just echo that your school board is behind you. Obviously, you know, we've heard different things about whether it be, you know, school suspensions or this or that, but just know that we're 100% behind you. We do a public education for the academics and trying to build a well-rounded individual throughout elementary, support them in every way we can. Just everything that we've heard is very positive about what you're putting in place. Don't give up on sort of the ditches you're putting in place. Make sure that you know you've got the support from the school board, and that if there are things that you need, you know, continue to work with Jeremy and us in any way that we can to help get you whatever it is that you feel like you do need. We're kind of in a hole, and we want to build out of that hole and go in a very positive direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have any questions for us?
Not at all. No, I just. I
Nothing?
really, really don't.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of came prepared to answer your questions tonight. And
Sounds good.
I think that when I have questions, like Jeremy said, I come to him and we,
You bet.
like I said, respect each other's time because I don't want to put more on his plate and the stuff that needs to be on my plate, I kind of demand.
Right.
Because that's where it needs to be. His focus needs to be someplace and mine needs to be someplace. And so when I do have questions, I usually either have the answer or we figure out where to get it from and we go from there. So it's been a really, for me, a really, really good relationship to this point all the way around. It really has. You guys have been great.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Much
thanks for your
appreciated.
time.
So, anything else on that?
No.
All right.
You're free to leave.
Yeah, you don't have to stick around for this.
You
don't
can
want
if you
to.
want.
Stay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And guys, if you have any concerns for me, please reach out at all over anything. More than willing to have the conversation. Always willing to have the
Yep.
conversation. So
Yeah.
thank you all.
Perfect.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. 6C then, superintendent report.
Okay, I got quite a few things to go over. The strategic plan, we sent you questions and everything for the survey last week. We got responses and everything. Sent that off to Gail. She mentioned that she'll be getting us the surveys early this week so we can get them sent out to families and students. One thing that's been brought up in the past, and it was brought up last week, not during a board meeting, but at a different meeting, was the Minnesota Student Survey. That came out in 2022, and it comes out every 3 years. We're one of a very few school districts that do not participate in that. However, I do want to work on educating everybody about the information that we gain from that for not just JWP, but Waseca County and the state. So between now and when it comes out again in 2025, we'll be talking about that student survey. EA negotiations, so the teacher negotiations, I think we've come to a tentative agreement that they're gonna take to the teachers, and hopefully we have results, and their negotiations are wrapped up by the end of next week. Sheila, the school resource officer, just returned. Today was her first day back, but she went through the DARE program, which is a program for elementary through middle school students. She graduated from that program last Thursday. She's working with Casey and David and Jeff on when she can get in the classrooms to work with students to learn about the DARE program. And DARE's been around for a very long time, so I'll be interested to see what changes were made since even when I was in school many moons ago. Casey's been working on a lot of QComp. QComp's been going very well. Everyone has their goals written for the year. She's starting her coaching session this month. A couple new things that are coming up from the state are, it's called MTSS. It's multi-tiered system of support. It's put in by legislation. There's 6 components to it. It's a huge undertaking. It'll be a 4 to 5 year, it'll take 4 to 5 years to fully implement. So we'll be looking into starting that through the state. The other one is the READ Act. That was put in through legislation. That's something new this year. All of the staff needs to be trained in the science of reading. There are 3 companies we can use, and we have webinars set up with all 3 companies next week to see which one we would like to choose moving forward. In our business office, Wendy's been working on the year-end audit and then working with food service, because there's a food service audit this year. So just getting ready for the MASBO conference coming up, and then going through negotiation costing models for us as we work on that. In special education, Heather Harms and Linda Hollapeter, we talked about a pipeline grant through the state of Minnesota. This is for paraprofessionals. Anybody that is not a licensed teacher can possibly apply for this grant to become a special education teacher. We do have one paraprofessional that I know for sure is interested in this. So we're keeping her in the loop as this grant is written through South Central Service Cooperative for many local districts. Another thing they mentioned is within the 4 districts they work in, they're starting to hear and see more behaviors ramping up. So it's not a JWP thing, it seems to be all over the area. In community ed, things are going well. However, staffing is very difficult. They're figuring it out day by day, wraparound right now. That's a day-by-day thing. Between Lisa and Savannah, they're the ones working it right now as we're trying to fill positions. But at this moment in time, we don't have any applicants for those positions. Also, we have submitted for our Parent Aware certification, which we have to do every 2 years. So that's been submitted for this year. And then also Pathway scholarships for preschool have been submitted for this year. Annika's been working on numerous HR things since the beginning of the year, continuing to do that with contract negotiations and everything else that comes into her office throughout the day, which is a lot. So, activities, fall sports are starting to finish up their regular seasons this week. Winter sport information will start to go out, the end of this week or early next week. She is gonna continue with the Bulldog Academy the Leadership Academy that was started last year. So she's, working with Justin at, Stay the Course to continue that for those students that participated last year. And, coaches and advisors will be going through some CPR training on, November 6th, this one of our workshop days. And then she's already got homecoming dates set for next year of October 4th of 2024 is our homecoming date. As far as the building itself, the Site Logic project is complete. So the balancing report is done. So when I talk about the balancing report, they have to balance all the airflow in the building. So that has been completed. Mike's here tonight. He's gonna be talking about roof repairs, skylights, and whatnot in a little bit, so I won't waste time doing that now. The sump pump in the basement that we talked about a few weeks ago has been fixed or replaced, so we appreciate that. Then in the elementary, just working through different things. Positive office referrals is something new that both principals have started this year. We have Bulldog of the Month in the elementary also. Jeff's participating in a principal mentorship program that's been very helpful for him. He's starting with teacher evaluations next week. And he also created a decision-making team, so he's not making all the decisions in the elementary, which includes the teachers, pairs, and support staff to help make decisions moving forward, like what are we doing homecoming week? So he's not making all those plans. He's involving more of the staff for that. And then David, you just heard from him. He has major behaviors are starting to show up. Parents have been great as long as they're informed. So he's got a great report, even with some of our more challenging students. Observations, he's already started and they're going well so far. And then, like he said, he's looking at shifting curriculum to more in-house stuff, shifting away from online and offering more CIS and other options to keep students in the building. So. Any questions for me?
The behavior interventionist is a new position for us, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about how that, I know we're only 7 weeks into school.
Well, we're 7 weeks into school, and actually, she came to us from Colorado, so she started the beginning of October.
Okay,
So we're still getting to know her. She's learning the position. It's developing the position as we go. But she's been working directly with the principals and Casey and our intervention team on what interventions we can use and how we can best meet the needs of our students. So.
okay. And kind of same question around counselor.
Counselor, she's been doing well. Learning both these positions, they're learning as they're going. So she's involved in a lot of the mental health stuff. So we're trying to involve them more of the college and career readiness with her also.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And I know you and I talked about the positive office referrals. Do you want to just explain that a little bit more for?
Yeah,
everybody
positive
to-
office referrals are students that are just going above and beyond and doing a great job in the classroom and helping friends and spreading kindness. And so they'll send a note down to Mr. Adams, he'll call them down. He calls their parents with the kids in the room, tells them how great they're doing at school. It's just been a great thing for these students.
Any other questions?
So just a quick thing, so the sump, all that water that was coming in, that was down there, it was just the sump pump? Or was it some blockage also?
It was
or-
blockage in the pipes.
So.
So they didn't replace the sump pump, they just replaced piping from the sump pump to another drain.
Yes, it's daylighted to a point that we can see if there's an oil leak or anything with that, but yes, it is now replumbed, up to specs, inspected, and yes, that sump pump has been running for a very long time, and the pipes just failed, so yes, it's good, it's visible, done by a professional team, and they inspected it, and good to go.
All right, good.
Any other questions?
Where are we with overall openings for the district?
Right now for openings, as far as our teaching staff is full. We're still, I think, 3 pairs short in the high school and 1 short in the elementary. And then, but where we're really struggling to find staff is in our community ed programming with wraparound.
Is there anything that's creating it? Problems?
From
or-
the feedback that I've received from our exit interview questions is lack of, or salary and benefits. They're getting offers to go other places for $7 to $8 more an hour.
Any other questions? Okay. Budget information, enrollment update.
Enrollment looks good. Enrollment's actually up 5 students compared to, or 6 students compared to last month. So that's getting back up to almost where we started the school year. So that's a great thing. Increase both in the elementary and added a couple students in the high school also.
And then historical cash balances. Are there any questions on either one of these? Anyone? Okay. 6E, committee reports. Certified Negotiations Committee.
I think Jeremy
Give
kind of
me the
already
update,
covered
yeah.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
They're gonna try to meet this
They're gonna
week
try
and
and
have
meet
an
this-
answer for us next week,
Yep.
maybe?
Okay. And Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Oh, no, you can go.
Did
Uh,
you want to say something? Yeah. go ahead.
We met again with Casey. As you're aware, I think Mr. Rysdam also covered it. The goal is to put curriculum and instruction and have a more powerful role, if you will, that would work directly with the principals, go hand in hand to actually try to affect outcomes. I would challenge all of you guys to look at Casey's presentation to us. It should be on the
Did you send it to
district site,
everybody?
correct? Both the presentation and the documents, or I should say don't we have like a folder that we go to for,
Drive? In the
I-
drive?
on the drive?
I'll make sure that it gets sent out to
Yeah, I know he
everybody.
sent it to us on the committee, but I don't know
Okay.
if it went out to everybody or not.
Okay, I didn't know if we had access to those
Yeah.
materials offline. But, great, if you could send those out. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
the numbers are a bit sobering, just as far as where we're at, as far as reading, math, and science. To be honest, very disheartening, especially in the high school. So look at that, review it, but, Casey's fired up. Jeremy's doing a good job of making sure that he's building a culture that's supportive to, Casey, making sure that the principals are willing to accept that and help support that. So hopefully, I mean, it's not going to change overnight. It's going to be a very long-term thing, but you've got a lot of people engaged and trying to help turn some things around.
Yeah, we compared a lot of data with the state, just within ours. We looked at like gender, between males, females. We also compared with other school districts. So, yeah, check out the graphs when he gets that sent to you guys, so you can see it all. But I feel
Again-
like we're moving in a you know,
Well, not yet.
slow, but positive direction.
We'll
But,
see, right?
yeah.
I mean, we're putting plans in place. We have nothing that shows that it's had an impact yet at all, but at least the rhetoric and ideas are very positive. We're dealing with a lot of, and grant you, we saw that a lot of schools are dealing with this, hit a certain grade, sixth grade, everybody's doing really pretty well, and then there's a more than a 10% drop as they move from sixth grade into seventh, or for schools, you're looking at when they're moving schools, if they have a separate school, but middle school to junior high, more than a 10% drop. So we're really trying to tease out why some of these things might be, happening. We also started to look and, of course, again, gender, trying to help teachers understand, if we've got a 30% proficiency, but the girls might in reading be at 60% and the boys are at 20, there may be some things that teachers need to really be focusing on if we're going to move the needle. You've got to be aware of where the challenges are really lying. Science and math, was the exact opposite, of course. So, really trying to challenge our professionals to look at the data, understand it, and then start to make changes to their curriculum and their instructional methodologies to try and impact, outcomes. Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of work.
Yep.
But to Laura's point, we are making what we believe are going to be some meaningful changes. We'll just be looking for actual outcomes that are measurable in the coming year. Katie, Laura?
Yeah, she was talking about, at the elementary level, the one class that there was, you could really tell a difference in some of the kids, and they were really intrigued by what this one teacher was using, and, gonna look at that a little bit more and stuff. So I love that she's looking at the data to see where we can make positive changes and where there might be some struggles and gaps that we need to fix, so.
Yeah, and trying to effectively use Q-Comp to actually, make a difference rather than a check the box, everybody passes, everybody
Right.
gets it.
Right,
That seems to be the culture that was in place previously, and really working hard to make sure that we actually have goals and objectives that ultimately lead to a positive outcome. And it sounds like David talked about, those are actively being put in place right now. He's excited about some of the things that staff is coming up with, and I think there's going to be more follow-through than, in the past. So we're pretty excited about, where we're headed.
any questions? Anyone?
I don't have a question on that. Can I go back a little bit?
Sure.
Just kind of with some of Kevin's questions. So, and I know we've probably already talked about this before, but if we have 2 social workers, a counselor, and a behavioral interventionist, correct?
Yep.
Does everybody have their clear path of what they need to do? And can you
They-
just kind of recap just a little bit? I know it was probably talked about, but it's gone in my mind right now.
So, the counselor is 7 through 12, so they're a college and career counselor. So working on helping kids identify, a pathway of maybe where where they want to go in the future, what classes they should be taking in order to, obtain that goal. Whether it's the workforce, whether it is, maybe a 2-year college into the trades, or a 4-year college. I think one thing I think years ago, the thought was every student, every child should go to a 4-year college. That's no longer the thought. The thought is, some kids are gonna go into the workforce right away. Some kids are going to, maybe go into the trades right away. And, some are still gonna go on to the 4-year college. But just helping those kids determine that path or discover what that path might be, or what their niche for life might be. So, social workers are working with the mental health part, and we have Kaylee works with preschool through 6th grade, and then Heidi works 7 through 12.
Okay.
And then our behavior interventionist, this is a new position for us. So they've been working with Jennifer, who is our behavior interventionist, to figure out whose role is what and how they all work together, so there isn't that overlap. And then Steph Watts, our reading specialist, who is part of the ADSES grant, is also working with Jennifer because they're part of the same grant as to how they need to work with the students and whatnot.
Okay, so Jennifer's part of a grant.
Yep.
Okay.
When's that grant run out?
It's every 2 years. And what we've discovered with that grant and what we've heard others are, as long as you continue with that grant, it really doesn't run out. It's just, if you stop some of the services, you may not get them back, because there's a waiting list for the ADSES grants.
Do you have to refile for it every 2 years?
You have to
too?
refile for it
Yeah.
every 2 years.
Okay.
And we've increased, the last couple of years that we've refiled, we've increased the dollar amounts we've asked for, and we've received them.
Nice, okay.
And because of this grant, she can't service any kids in special education, correct?
She can to a point, but it's not, it can't be more than her 50% of her caseload and stuff, so she can service some as needed, but most of those kids have a caseworker that they're working with on those behaviors anyways.
And she's, is she pre-K through 12 or?
Pre-K through
Okay.
12. Yep.
Thank you.
So when you talked about the counselor, you did mention mental health as well. I know that's one of the things that we were hoping that by having some of these other positions that, you know, the counselor 7 through 12 would really be able to spend more time. Have you already seen a reduction? And I know she's only been here since, well, she's been here since the beginning of school.
Right.
But are you seeing a reduction in time spent on the mental health side and an availability of spending more time on, like you said, identifying a pathway, whether it be for going to the workforce, 2-year school, 4-year school?
Right. I would say maybe not a huge difference, but we've seen a difference, and a lot of the things that she's being tasked with right now, being a counselor, is making sure kids are on course to graduate. Since we've had that turnover with counselor, with principal, we want to make sure our kids are on course to graduate. So she's been doing a lot of work, researching, making sure that she started with our seniors. Okay, does everybody have the requirements in order to graduate in the spring?
Mhm.
If not, how are we going to get them the requirements?
Mhm.
So that's the work she's been doing, and then Mr. Rysdam and I have been tasking her with learning different things and going to different workshops to learn more about them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to 7, approval of the consent agenda. As always, anyone can pull anything out. Anybody want to pull anything out or any clarifying questions? All right.
One thing before we vote for this is the policies that have non-substantial changes. We did do some checking with MSBA. They did say we could put those in the consent agenda, so I did move those to consent agenda.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Sherry Dashner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Old business, second readings and approval of new policies and existing policies with substantial changes.
So this is our second reading. We have 3 readings. So actually, in this situation, we'll have 4 because we won't approve them at our study session. We'll wait and approve those at our next board meeting in November. So, but if you have questions, we do have a policy committee meeting scheduled for next week that we can answer any questions about these two.
Yeah, and I can ask you some of those at that meeting, so. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. All right, 9, new business. Mike Dashner, ductwork, science fans, skylights.
I'll get it ready for you.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. We're talking about some roof issues that are coming up. I'll bring some of you guys up to speed that have not been at our finance and our facilities meetings. We have a 25-year-old roof that is needing some attention. It was installed in our 99 edition. With that being the case, I put just a few slides together so we can show you guys what's going on. These fans are our science area. See, every one of these lower portions here is what's called a sleeper. Every time we do a roof penetration, that has to be rebuilt. My goal and objective when we're moving forward, kind of give you a heads up, tomorrow we have a pre-bid meeting here at the school. I have 5 contractors coming in here to look at the construction of what we're doing on our 99 roof. We want to take these fans off, put them on the ground, build a box to increase the surface area for our equipment, so we have a lot less penetrations in one location. Because every time we have one of these, and as you'll go through the photos, I think there's like 3 more, Jeremy. There's another direction. Every one of them is a nightmare. On a flat roof system or a slight sloped system that we have, I can go on to the next one. There's another one. As you can see, these are our new sleepers. That's a new standard, up 12 inches. When we re-roof this, that is acceptable. These are not. They're too low, too tight to the surface. To try and seal in these areas, it's better to cap off here, put this piece of equipment on there. This spiral is self-supporting, plus it decreases the labor and the time of the guys on the roof. So with that portion being said, is there one more, I think, that shows that? You guys kind of get the gist of eliminating those. With that being said, there is a dollar amount that comes with taking that equipment off the roof, but it will make us a much better, user-friendly roof. Cranes will be on site, so that'll be a minimal cost. It'll be just separate contractors, not roofing guys, because this requires an electrical disconnection and stuff like that. So I just want to bring you guys up to speed as we're looking into this project. These are a few of our hiccups that we're coming into. The next slide, I think we're starting with skylights.
Mike, can we go?
Yeah.
Sure,
Just
sorry.
go back to, so if you're looking at removing that from the roof,
Yep,
where are you gonna put it?
in the parking lot to be brought back up when the project's done.
Oh, so you're not, I thought you were talking about relocating them
Nope.
down to the ground.
Just reattaching. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Removing it, taking it off site. These are all the science exhaust fans.
Yeah, and then once they're done with the
Summer
roof,
months.
and they do put that, then you bring it back up.
Absolutely.
Okay, I misunderstood, because I was thinking, where the heck are you gonna put those?
No, these are all brand new equipment.
Yeah.
The ductwork and stuff that has come up through the ceiling was existing, but they utilize the same old sleepers that were already
Okay,
there. So we're
okay.
trying to make it much more user-friendly for the roof.
That
so.
makes sense.
So when you put them back up there, you're gonna use the thicker sleepers?
Yep, and it'll be a larger box, square across. There'll be 12 inches of rise, deck board mopped up, because as, I'll bring you guys up to speed, we're looking at a build-up roof rather than a ballast roof. Garland is the company that we're going with. They are going to, they hold the warranty and everything on it. We won't have somebody, Schwickerts can do the work, but we don't have Techno America. They hold the warranties. They have 5 other roofs on our building already. They don't leak. Key thing, to me, that's a pretty important piece. So that's what we're looking at doing for those. And then as we move on, this one's a more of a deeper question for you guys. 6, I think, goes on to skylights.
When do you get the bid for that?
When will we get the bid?
tomorrow's pre-bid will start, they'll have 2 weeks to, put the numbers together
Is
for
that for the
them.
whole roof, or is it just this part, those bits?
Just the 99.
That's where there's a problem. 99 goes a long ways on this roof. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. I got it broke out a little bit more. Skylights were installed in 99. Just to point out, this does not belong, prior to me, this seal across the top, seal across the bottom here, that already traps water. Any of these spots that are not smooth like this are delaminations. It's a fiberglass. I asked the roofing guys, when do these become a problem? He says, usually when we notice it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of funny. They call them cow walls. They are generally a 20 to 25-year skylight. Imagine that, 99. So my question to you guys as a school board, we have a large one in our commons, this one that wraps around the building here. Can we do without natural light in our media center? Because these, rough estimate, $70,000 to replace every 20 years. That's a school teacher's income. Let's think about that. We gotta save for another school teacher or something like that. I'm a fan of putting a raised seam roof on it, just like our neighbor Trinity Church put on it, covering it up. If in the future, if somebody chooses to do something with it, they can take that stuff off, put skylights back in if they choose to do it.
So are you talking about putting a pitched
The way
above
they're
this?
already designed, they're already, I don't know if I have a side view or not, they've already been pitched. There's
Okay.
enough angle already on them.
Okay,
The one out here, if you look actually straight up here, you can see they're quite sloped. The one benefit that nobody talks about that comes with it is natural light, and you can just roll through them because they are all, and these are different areas, but they're all the same. They're all coming apart. We can't afford to have the heart of our building full of water by something that's gonna deteriorate. And one of the guys said, no, we had a big school district, they put more in, they spent $225,000 to put them in, and they leaked years later. So it's like, ouch. I just can't justifiably say that we're okay to do that. Okay, and then
The
yes, sir.
skylights are just in here and the commons,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
And, I mean, realistically, with everything, with our lighting upgrades and everything like
Right.
that, to me, they just seem like more of a liability than anything.
Yep.
and the idea behind them, they said we could put accent lights inside here, which we already have to make it look like it, but our skylight lighting hasn't shined out since 99. I think it worked 6 months, and they just disabled it, because every one of them is like a 500-watt halogen light bulb that glows, it just burns electricity, doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to recommend we eliminate them, as long as they don't have to be tore completely out, it's just covered and done, so the look will still be there, the bottom appearance will be the same, but it is not, it's just a frowned upon thing. This company and all companies that puts skylights in, they generally wait for the roof guys to say, hey, they're bad, because they don't do a follow-up on them. And I've noticed them before they have, as you can see, they've sealed around them already. So that's just one of the things that we noticed when we're looking at this roofing edition. So if you think of the 99 edition that wraps around band choir, all the way around outside of our auditorium, comes all the way back where we have the upper sciences, that section. And then we have our auditorium, has got a ballast roof on it. The next step down is a 99 where all of these solar or skylights are around those perimeters. And then we have one more that comes out on this section here. So I have a grand numbers of roofs on this building that needs a lot of attention. The first one that I think we talked about in that meeting was that outside perimeter. If we go on to wall panels,
Hold on a second.
Yep.
If there is visible hail damage, is there any way that we could prove that that created some of it?
I don't know when in my time frame to say that it's, they'll say the delamination, is there, so the hail damage probably isn't necessarily
Causing it.
causing it, so. But yeah, you can see the separation. Them lines are supposed to be dark and very specific, so they're already popping up and separating, so. I'll take your guys' advice in the future, how we wanna go about it. I don't know if we have to go on a vote, but I'll get some numbers and we'll come back and revisit it. It doesn't need to be decided tonight. Wall panels, 99. That's what they used as a wall panel to cover up existing brick around the building. That's not that is basically a stucco, vertical. And as it's followed the rain gutter, condensation, moisture. If we go on to the next one, I know it's faded, but those don't leak. That is the material that we're going to look into putting across either our skylights and the perimeter of any exposed brick on our foundation or our building.
On the roof.
On the roof. As every section ties in, this comes across, there's a roof cap that makes it waterproof over the top. This goes down, and as you can see underneath here, it flashes. The roofing goes up underneath. There's no chance of, if you go to that back photo, sorry. That's because the moisture underneath here delaminates, water wicks up underneath it, deteriorates. Now, we have brick behind that, but water infusion into brick is a problem. So these are things that I just can't justify putting money into having somebody come up and replace or repair that without doing the above project and the below project. So we'll have to look at how far the money will go from what we've saved from LTFM, or if this vote, and that's why we're talking about that $1.9 million that is left over from our air purification, just reallocating the money back, and obviously our community gets to make that decision, how we're going to do that. Any more questions about that part?
Is that a big dent on that one, that next, down there on the left, or is that,
That is, that black on the bottom
Yeah.
down there,
yeah,
that is blackjack. Somebody got a little wild with their
Oh.
cock gun in it,
okay.
or whatever. We have much better looking stuff here. The newer stuff won't be sun faded as much as that, but that is in an area that, it is literally, that white corner on the side is where that fiberglass starts, and then that continues. It was a cheaper wall board that they put up, I'm sure to save money, back in '99, so.
So is that, along with the stuff that you're gonna put over the skylight, is that being incorporated into the bids, to the pre-bids for tomorrow? Or is that
will be.
separate?
That
Okay.
will be. And as we're building, we're talking to all the contractors tomorrow, we're talking about the 99 portion of roof F, and I don't have that width, but roof F goes from, as I talked about, the band and choir, but then there's another section, and another section. They all have 5 inches of insulation, we do know that. What would be needed is, when we did our core tests, we just need another layer of hardboard that goes over the top, which is 1, because we're saving the insulation underneath it that's dry right now, that if it breaks down, we get it wet, then it's a total roof removal, it changes the whole dynamic. But with that being said, we have 5 roofs on the top of the building that are potentially up for being looked at for the 1999 edition with skylights. With that being said, they're going to build an as-build design. Our first roof F, this is what we're gonna do, and then if we should do more, this is the next one, the next one, and the next one. And with that being said, we can draw the line where we stop, how much money we spend on it at any given time, or we're also asking for a whole bid as one. So when the contractors are here tomorrow, they can look at it and say, hey, we're in the middle of the building, we have a crane set up, we're working from this direction all the way across. We have our laborers on the thing, our equipment's on the roof. We can literally do all of it for a said better price. At least that's the hope. So ductwork, that's our new ductwork. That, along with the equipment that we were talking about, those science fans, if you would go, there's multiple photos. That wall paneling that I was just talking about is going to go from underneath this flashing down to the ground here, covering in multiple spots. This I know is, see how tight that is? The wall penetration here, there's 3 to 4 inches of room behind there. Obviously, we started talking about the dehumidification project 3 years ago, moving forward, never thinking that by the time it comes to, that this is going to be that tight. We do have some rough numbers, and we have a contractor that is willing to take this ductwork down, start with this portion of our roof early as soon as school gets out, so that they can do all the wall paneling, the proper flashing up underneath, tie in all of our sleepers so that they're complete and finished in that area. So they would be end of the school year, beginning weeks of June. They would be out of there. That is our most complicated area in the building. The contractors, and coming from the construction world, you guys have all seen it. It's easier to do the ugly stuff and the hard stuff at the beginning. It looks a whole lot more promising once you get away from the difficult areas. Because attitudes in July and August are a little bit different than they are when the project first starts. So there's rough numbers out there. I will not quote exactly what they are because I don't know. That would be just an embellishment. I know what it costs to get the equipment off, opens it up, and they're gonna share that with the pre-bid people tomorrow. How much will that save per square foot if this equipment's out of your way? So that'll be numbers that we'll be sharing, so you can scroll through, Jeremy. There's quite a few, but from what I gathered, a flange point disconnect here and all the way down to the other side, they'll rig it, swing it. I know there's always the risk of putting equipment on the ground after it's been up there. This is just off from the science areas. Here's a large section, there's a large section. The difference is the style of roof that we're doing is a buildup with multi-layers that cross. I know Kevin's familiar with it. Much more user-friendly roof. So once that equipment's done, crossing my fingers, I'm not talking to you guys for another 30 years before we even start talking about the roof underneath this again. And at that point, there's a buildup and a resurface that comes with it that'll give another 10-year warranty. So we're looking at roofs that instead of putting $100,000 a year for away that we've been continually doing, we know that it's $3 a square foot, not $11 a square foot. Our budget numbers are so much better. So these numbers would stagger with this roof to 2054 before we're visiting them. And the other roofs that are on our building right now are 2038s. So the hope is to get newer equipment, newer roofs in these locations so that our 30-year, if it's a perfect dream, our 30-year equipment is on a 30-year roof, and then we're revisiting. I know it's scary, but what breaks down after 30 years, that's a bigger issue at that point. But at least we know that you can add 10 years to that roof, and then there's a resurface of another 10 years to that roof. It's not a total rebuild. We keep the same insulation in it. The other thing to talk about is if a code should change in 5 years, we don't have to re-roof it, re-insulate it, we don't have to change it because we're already under the warranty for the 30 years, and the resealing and recovering is a whole different animal. They cannot strong arm you into saying, hey, you gotta tear it off and start over. So I think that's it for my photos. You guys got any questions for that?
So throughout the whole site logic thing,
Yep.
could that have been caught? Like, so we wouldn't have had to tear this out and put it back in there?
It can still be done the way it is.
It's just easier?
It's a
But-
lot easier, yes. So site logic, I think as of design, by the time they got the carrier unit and how big the ductwork had to be, I think it got closer to the building than they anticipated. I think they should have been a foot further, But they didn't wanna take that, that's the start of our fan unit there. They didn't wanna hang the carrier
Off the roof.
rooftop unit outside the building. And for a much cleaner look is what they said. They didn't wanna, one of the guys jokingly said, put a nose on JWP school. So, I look at it, I've been on that side of the world, moving ductwork, swinging that in and out of there, that's not much of an issue at all. Large enough crane, you separate it in sections, you choke it, rig it, swing it out of there. So, I'm pretty comfortable that anybody that comes in to do that, which, like I said, it'll be different than the roofers, because that's why we're trying to ask them to do their best price.
So where would you think that they're going to put all that ductwork
It'll be,
underground?
it'll be right next to the concrete area between the dumpsters of the lower E3 to our parking lot there, the same place that we pretty much staged our equipment stuff, because it looks like it's really long and it's really a lot, but it's only that 99 feet of our gym, so we got 90-some foot of ductwork that would be down, and it's
So
5
is
feet
that-
tall.
Is that going to be an area though that's going to be somehow fenced in so that we don't have yahoos running around and destroying it?
It'll be the same thing as what, when Knutson came in, general contractors put fences on both sides of it. The hope is they're in and out of there in 2 weeks in that area, and the ductwork's going right back up. And then that portion of it's out of the way. And that'll be deeper conversations with the contractors tomorrow. If they come out with an outrageous number and says it takes $50,000 to put that on the ground, there'll be guys crawling underneath it and mopping and everything else to do what they gotta do. So.
Okay.
But this is a portion where you're removing ballast and going to a build-up instead of a ballast roof
Yep.
here as well.
Yep, everything that I'm projecting to do on any of our 99 roofs will be eliminating all ballast roofs. We've talked about the numbers, I think Wendy and I talked about it in the last 10 years, it was somewhere around the $60,000 worth of repairs that have been done every time they come in. They wear out, they flatten, they tent, things, you know, you walk across, it's one layer of thick rubber, it tears somewhere, snow load, whatever, ice, and then you're chasing that water down where, build-up roof laps multiple directions, seals. There will be some, buildup of walls, that's why there's gonna be a little more higher price, because they require a 10-inch rise, and that's what they found that the water is best, stops any of the flow. And the only other ask that I've talked about, and Jeremy and I went through it a little bit, is the portion, as we're gonna talk, of our as-built project, the auditorium. I've talked to you guys about solar. There's a possibility that we've applied for an $84,000 grant for solar to be put on the school. And with the rough numbers, obviously this is speculation, the numbers is there's 10% of recovery by your school district if you use the solar, which in the 20 years that they're managed, it'll be about $500,000. And that's a very low estimate, because they know we're in the northern hemisphere, they only work so much. But the solar panels are good for 30 years. I want to put them on a 30-year roof, that's why we're talking about it. The auditorium roof part would be white, and that's a different cost of about $5,000 for a 5,000 square foot area, just to make it white, because solar panels work much better in a cooler situation. And the area that we have one vent and one standpipe in that area. So they would build it up, make it there, and if we do not get the grant or the approval, they're gonna omit it and put it right back to a standard roof. So, like I said, Jeremy and I have discussed it, we talked to Ideal Energy and risk reward. If we get $84,000, there's no penetrations that are going through our roofs, and we provide a good, safe roof. I don't know why we wouldn't at least humor the idea to put the solar on the roof. We are not at all in a committed financial thing with anybody yet. That's why we're presenting it to all our roofing contractors ahead of time, so that they're well aware of where we're going. But as you guys can see, everybody's going greener everywhere in the world. We put more equipment on our roof. We've increased the load on the city, so why can't we give it back a little bit? And that's the hope and the plan.
When do you hear back on the grant?
The grant was supposed to be announced on October 2nd.
Oh,
Yeah, and I made 3 phone calls, and the guy says, we have yet to deny anyone, so expect that you're going to get it because you're pre-approved. It's just the process and the litigations that they have to go through. So, with that being the section of the roof, I didn't bring a photo of it, that would be, it's our highest, biggest area on the area. You won't see it from the ground, you won't see any of the solar, but it is the least traffic area of our roof system. There's no other mechanical equipment
And
around it.
it wasn't in any of your pictures,
No,
that
I-
one?
I
Because
should
we
have
did see
probably-
one big flat one. That's not the one.
That is not the one, sorry about that.
Oh, this
It
one?
would look like that,
It would
but
look
one more
similar.
roof over, that's our big gym, the auditorium, it looks pretty much just like that.
Do you know, did Owatonna or any of the other new schools that have gone up in the last 3 to 5 years incorporated solar
I
into their
don't know if
projects?
Owatonna has currently, but there's been supposedly from Ideal, they said, what, 300 school districts have put solar on their buildings? And, they're starting with small. I did ask, I know Tim had a question, there's nothing in them that are mercury, nothing is dangerous, like they're not hazardous waste. They almost reassured me that if in 25, 30 years, if we put it on the ground, people will be begging to buy it or steal it or take it. Because they said they will be putting it on their homes and stuff like that just to go green as much as they possibly can. And he says the only difference between the 30-year-old solar panel and the 50-year-old is it's just not as efficient as it was when it was 10 years old. He said they will, and they consider that breakdown in it. And I did not ask what would take to refurbish, because you guys all know as well as I do, technology and things are changing so fast, they couldn't give me an honest answer, so,
So unlike a farmer putting in a solar field, we would actually own all these panels and operate it ourselves?
In 20 years, we're under a contract with Ideal for 20 years. They monitor, maintain, and repair for 20 years, and then after the 20-year, then it's solely our possession. And I did ask, it's about a year and a half of savings if we would have to take it off the roof and put it on the ground. So whatever the numbers are at that point, if we had to remove them, it's a year and a half worth of your savings. So I figured if we can get 25 years to 30 years out of them, that's a risk reward that we can do with LTFM and take some of that money off and save it. And like I said, they are estimating very low, and they said they're getting a lot better results, but they just won't stand behind it, just because the weather and the stuff that we deal with, so.
So for the 20 years, it's theirs, they're insuring it, they're repairing it. Okay.
Yep, and then hopefully for another 10 years, it's all profit on our end with very minimal cost, that goes with it. I've asked a lot of questions. Jeremy was in on the conversation. I didn't get any scary, I don't like it from anybody. And they're willing to share any numbers of anyone that is currently, has it on their school and says you can contact any one of them.
I
So,
would, a couple at least.
yeah, and I have talked to the guys from Site Logic, and they have worked with a lot of different projects that have seen the solar. And Dave Gibson, who was our project manager here, says there is a lot of optimism in the direction that solar is going.
Does this work with Excel Energy, or does it
It's-
actually work with, I assume, Excel?
It is an Excel program of some sort, because
Yep.
it is a carbon footprint, and
Yep.
as everybody's moving forward
Yep.
with that, so.
Yep, and I assume we don't actually get to use the energy ourselves, it gets sold to them, and then we buy it back.
Right.
We don't actually get to directly offset any of our electrical, so there's not gonna be any big switches in that
Correct.
we're running off solar and then, automatically switches. Okay,
Right, because the question I asked was, could we get 100% coverage for the building so we don't offset any of the municipal? Because we have had conversation with the municipal about that, and they said sometimes if the people that go with solar, and then we have to start buying back, then that offsets the community, and then that's a problem to the municipal. So they're like, that's why the numbers aren't large enough. You guys will utilize every bit of electricity that this thing provides. And I suppose in an option later, if we wanted to increase and go to the point that we're at a zero carbon footprint, I don't know if we have enough roof for that. So we need 4,000 square feet to get us 10% of coverage on this building, so.
So I know St. Peter just got a grant and they're putting up a bunch of solar, so that's one that's gonna be close by that you could maybe contact, for information and stuff. That was in the Mankato Free Press and MSBA stuff when they were talking about that.
Did they put that on their roof, or did they put it in a
It's going on
yard?
their middle school roof,
Okay,
so, if I remember correctly.
okay.
But, that was like, in the newspaper and MSBA on their little daily
Yeah.
blurbs.
Looks like they're
there.
doing high school and middle school.
Yeah, so that could be one to kind of contact, and see, and, yeah.
Cool,
Thank you.
thanks.
No, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have just two quick ones. Do you have an update on that sidewalk, when it's gonna get fixed, and then the stairs coming up from the lower to,
I've talked to Daryl Ramo, and he is, sorry, I shut that off. Jason Gertz is gonna locate our wire, and when Daryl Ramelt is available to do it, they're going to incorporate the broken sidewalk right along with it. And, as soon as it's available for him to come in and do it after we locate it, he's like, depends on what fall does, so. He said it's probably 4 days, he'll have it in and out, knocked out, and he said there's like $100 to $150 worth of concrete to repair that offset broken piece. He said we'll just cut it out, put it in, and pour it all at the exact same time, so.
so he thinks it's gonna be this fall?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Did you have another question, or was that the two and one?
That was the two,
Two and
yep,
one?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike. All right, 9B, approval of agreement concerning instructional staff sharing between JWP Schools 2835 and Southern Plains Education Cooperative 915.
Right, this is a contract that we need to have somebody that's a teacher of the physically impaired, because we have some physically impaired students. This is just contract we would have with Southern Plains for them coming in to work with those students. So,
What, do they, like, work with them? Like, how do they work with them?
they're on their special
Like-
education team
Okay.
and give advice and work with them under, as a resource, and then helping them create plans to help with and improve these students.
Okay, got it. Any other questions?
So is this the 3,300 per year?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
It's a yearly contract, so we'll revisit it every year.
Every year? If
So
not-
do you need an approval for that?
Yep, I was just gonna say, do we have a
So
motion?
moved.
It's Kevin Bourne, do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9C, approval for seniority lists, certified and non-certified.
So each year we have to post the seniority list, so we have to update it every year. So this is the updated one. We post it in the teacher's lounge and in the office, and then if teachers have concerns or issues with it, they come tell us and we can look into it. Formality that we do each year with both certified and non-certified.
So you've already had it up for a
I've
while?
not
or-
had it up
Oh, you
yet.
haven't?
So we
Okay.
approve it, then it goes up. I
Oh,
have
we
these-
approve it first and then
Yep,
they
I
do
have
it?
these dates wrong.
Oh,
So
okay.
will we wait for negotiations to finish and be approved before we would release this? Because it could change, or, I didn't look and see if it has those 3 changes that we're talking
It
about.
does have those 3 changes.
So do you want to wait until it's fully approved before we
It's, yeah, it's
post
just,
that?
yeah, I'll wait. It's gotta be posted for 2 weeks for the teachers. So as soon as they approve their negotiations, then I'll post it in the media, or in their,
So do you want us to
respective
approve it pending approved
Contract.
contract negotiations?
yeah.
I would
that'd be
make
good.
such a motion.
Just curious, why do we approve it before they review it versus them reviewing it and it's finalized and then we approve it?
That's a great question that I do not have an answer to.
Well, the second question is
Just
going
seems
back to
weird.
why you were asking that is seniority is just how many years of you've been here. So how, and I'm not on the negotiations committee, so why would this impact the negotiations? How many years you've been here is how many years you've been here.
Because with negotiations this year, they, the legislature has added, the preschool teachers to seniority, or to the unions. So then those teachers have, if the union chooses to, they can have those teachers be added where they would fall on the seniority list for their years of service, or they would have to wait till 2028 to be put on the seniority list.
Oh,
And
I
our-
didn't know that. So
Yeah, and our teachers' union, the language we have has our teachers' union wanting them put on the seniority list now.
Okay. That's interesting.
I guess back to my question, I know you don't have the answer, but I guess I don't, what are we doing to approve this? Like, what is our value in this?
You're just saying that it's correct.
Even though it might not be?
They'll tell
Well,
us
then
if
they
it's
have to
not,
come
and then
back.
we
Yeah.
can,
Okay.
Which we've done in the past where there's
Yeah.
been mistakes and then we've had to go in and reapprove it.
make some adjustments
Yeah.
and reapprove it.
Because you think administration should approve it or the board before the actual people involved in it would do it, or I would think.
Okay. All right.
I guess, and maybe this isn't for here, but I'm just looking at, like, the 2 social workers. One has tenure, one doesn't, but they're both hired the same day.
Both hired the same day because one had tenure in a previous school district.
Okay. That makes sense.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I made one.
Oh, yes, right.
But that, can you restate it so
Yeah,
that?
please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My,
thank you.
my motion is to approve the seniority list as printed pending the approval of negotiations or an approved contract by the teachers.
Okay, Kevin Bourne. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And that's Tim Elke. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. We didn't add any, right? So, 11, upcoming meetings. November 6th, the study session, 20th, the regular board meeting, the 4th, the study session and truth and taxation, and then December 18th, the regular meeting. And we also have those meetings with
With,
Gail in
Gail.
there too, so,
Once we get those
finalized. yeah.
finalized.
Did anybody have any issues with them other than maybe your one that, okay.
If something does come up from now till then, once they're scheduled, is it a huge deal if somebody misses one?
No,
Okay,
as long as we have enough there, yeah.
She
She
likes
said-
everybody
She
to
likes
be
everybody.
there.
If we're missing one or maybe 2, she said we'll still meet.
Yeah.
Does that fall into the public? Or if for some reason somebody was out of town, could they, she's gonna probably be here via Zoom, can somebody else be via Zoom? Okay.
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, as long as we state the address of where you're located.
So it does fall into those.
It will?
Or won't?
Let's
should- it would
let's
be
double check on
if-
open meeting law for that one,
I would think it would be if we're all meeting.
for a committee though. I,
Yeah,
I would think it
I
would,
think
but
would.
we should double check with
Yeah.
Terry Marlowe to make sure.
So, all right, any other questions?
I know Kevin's motion was for the teachers, but what about the non-certified list? Do we have to
No.
do something?
Non-cert can go as printed because it is, there aren't any legislations that
Affect them.
affect them.
Okay, I just didn't know if we need to prove that one separately, or if,
Oh, I took it as one approval.
yeah, and Kevin specifically said teachers, so that's what I meant.
For the amend, or the addition, right? Or was that for the whole thing?
I said they would both go in it pending teacher, I didn't specify certified versus non-certified. I just said they would both go in after teacher negotiations are
And it-
finalized,
We can wait
Yeah.
till teachers are finalized.
and they'll both come in
And they'll
together.
both come in together.
Okay,
Okay,
But if there's value in having one go
no,
sooner.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't missing something.
thank you.
Mhm. Yes, thank
Alright.
you.
Anything else? If
Do you
not,
need a second on that? No.
No,
Because there's
We all-
nothing.
I think we already
That's
voted
right.
on
Oh,
that,
that's all
right?
right.
Right?
Elke did.
Mhm.
Sorry.
That's
Okay.
Mr. Elke to you.
Think we got that vote, right? We got that? Okay, good. All
Just
right.
call me
Anything else?
Tim.
Mhm.
If not, we are adjourned at 6:57. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.